Our top story tonight, shocking stats on your life savings and the enormous impact of education on those savings. A new study shows that over the years, the amount borrowed for student loans results in a loss of 4 times the amount that you borrowed. So a household with the average amount of student debt, about 50 grand, ends up losing $200,000 overall. Of course, those who borrow more are just losing that much more. I thought one of the reasons that we all went to college was to have a richer life in the long run. With me now are Tamara Draut from Demos, which did this study. We also have Mary Catherine Ham from hotair.com. She's also a Fox News contributor. Tamara, I'm going to start with you because you guys did this study. How did you do it? Were you surprised by the findings?
The way we did it is we basically compared 2 households, similar in all ways except one important way. One had student loan debt from going to college and one didn't have any debt from going to college. And then we looked at what we know about young people when they're first starting out based on existing data from the Fed, and we modeled that out over a lifetime. And basically what we found was absolutely shocking to all of us, which is that, you know, on average, you're going to lose about 4 times the amount that you take out in student loan debt, and you're primarily going to lose that through lower contributions to retirement savings right when you get out of school if you have student loan debt, and less savings for down payment, so you're going to have less equity in your home by the time you ultimately retire.
Mary Catherine, what is surprising to me about this is that it's obvious that you wouldn't have that cash on hand, you know, in order to put in your 401k or to buy a house. But I would think that your earnings over your lifetime would be that much higher that it would compensate for that loss. Is that surprising to you?
It's a little surprising. It's not surprising to me that the losses can be cumulative, but I think as we move forward that the cost-benefit analysis on a college degree is getting worse, and it feels very catch-22 for young people because they think, well, I have to get this degree because I can't get a job without it, which in many cases is the truth, but then you end up floundering this stuff. I actually, by accident, made a good decision and went to a state school, Go Dogs, on scholarship, and I didn't realize when I got out, oh my gosh, I'm $30,000 ahead of everyone, even though I'm making $9.50 an hour. And so I think a lot of people, because of awareness of this, a lot of people are having that thought process consciously more often about the cost benefit analysis. And I think that's a step in the right direction, at least.
Why don't you make more as a result of it? I mean, why doesn't your increase in your income compensate for the fact that you borrowed money?
Well, you do make more. I mean, let's be really clear. We're actually not saying that people shouldn't go to college. Back to what Mary was saying about the cost-benefit analysis, I think what we would say is that the nation as a whole faces a new cost-benefit analysis about this. And the question we need to be asking ourselves is whether attaching opportunity to get a good job in the labor market, to do things we all need as a democracy, people to do, to be nurses, to be lawyers, to be journalists, if we should attach that opportunity to debt. And that's the question we're trying to raise.
Well, how do you not do that, though? I mean, and Mary Catherine, maybe I'll throw it back to you. So how do we decouple those things? I mean, do you say that you don't need a degree to become a nurse, or do we tell people, you know, we steer people towards specifically vocational educations and maybe cheaper vocational schools? But I mean, then how does somebody know exactly what they want to be when they start the school process?
I mean, that's really tough. I do think that vocational schools do have a place, and it can be really productive for people to go there and get a cheaper degree and move on to an actual job. I think also you've got, it's not easy is frankly the problem. You've got Rick Perry in Texas who said, look, I challenge all the colleges in this state to create a $10,000 4-year degree, which is obviously a very, very high bar or low bar, however you want to look at it. And they have not, a lot of them, reached it, but they are trying. I think one problem we have is if we just feed the beast on one side by giving cheaper loans and we don't say, hey, we need to work on college affordability, the price is just going to keep going up.
I mean, that is a great point. We are not price sensitive in this country. First of all, I mean, I don't think enough parents and children look at it like that and say, what is my best cost benefit? They say, you know, what's the best school I can possibly get into? And a lot of times they equate expensive schools with being better, which isn't necessarily the case at all. And also, by having so much student loan and student debt available out there, it inflates the price of college because no one's price sensitive and no one's saying to schools, I'm not coming because you're too expensive, right?
Well, yes and no. One of the things we know is that state funding for state universities has plummeted in the last 20 years. We're at a 20-year low. It's about 26% lower.
And those are the cheaper schools, so maybe that proves the point.
Well, But we also have to look at community colleges, which have always been underfunded and a cheaper alternative. Even at community colleges, we're seeing pricing go up. And the reason fundamentally is that as a nation, publicly, we have decided to pull back and retrench an investment in our state institutions of higher education.
Mary Catherine, what do you think?